Big homie wanted to look like a gay painter.
From mocking Jay-Z for posing like a great artist to straight-up calling out his rise in certain circles as being fueled by Beyoncé, 50 Cent hasn't exactly been subtle. He's been firing shots for years, and none of it has ever felt accidental.
Look, when Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce.
Mhm.
When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those trophies came rolling in.
But now everything's flaring up again because fans think Jay finally clapped back, just not in the usual loud way. There's a clip making the rounds online that has people dissecting every second of it. And this time, the conversation isn't about childish shots or internet jokes. The real story centers on the Super Bowl, and according to 50 Cent, the night we all remember almost played out very differently. For a while now, something's been quietly simmering in hip-hop. The kind of tension most people overlook because it happens far from microphones and studio booths. This isn't about who had the better verse or who topped the charts. It's about influence. About how decisions are made when the doors are closed and the cameras are off. We're talking about two of the most powerful figures in the music industry, not just because of their catalogs, but because of the rooms they have access to. This isn't a lyrical back and forth where skill decides the winner. This goes beyond streaming numbers, beyond trends, beyond viral moments. It reaches into boardrooms where real power is exercised, where invitations are extended or quietly pulled back. And what makes this situation even crazier is that it's not ancient history. This isn't some forgotten rivalry from decades ago. It's recent. And it's something 50 Cent has repeatedly spoken on. The accusation is serious. According to 50, Jay-Z worked behind the scenes to block him from appearing on one of the biggest platforms in American entertainment, the Super Bowl halftime show. You already know the moment. February 13, 2022. Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Hip-hop finally took center stage on the largest broadcast in the country. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, all sharing one historic stage. It was marketed as a cultural breakthrough. Then came the surprise. Out of nowhere, 50 Cent appeared upside down, recreating the iconic visual from In Da Club. The internet exploded instantly. Memes flooded timelines. Nostalgia hit hard. It felt like a perfectly executed throwback. But according to 50, that moment almost never happened. And when he tells the story, he points the finger directly at Jay-Z. Here's where the power structure comes into play. Since 2019, Jay-Z's company, Roc Nation, has been partnered with the NFL on the Super Bowl halftime show. That partnership touches everything, from artist selection to production decisions to the overall creative direction. In simple terms, Jay is plugged into the decision-making system behind the biggest stage in the country. And that's why, to many people, 50's claim doesn't sound far-fetched. When someone has influence over the machine, they also have influence over who gets access to it. According to 50, that influence was used to try and keep him out of the building.
Z told Dr. Dre, just for people who's not up on this, or Eminem, that he didn't want you to perform part of that Super Bowl they had a couple years ago.
Toward the end of 2024, 50 Cent brought the issue back into the spotlight during a round of interviews and didn't hold anything back. According to him, Jay-Z went directly to Dr. Dre and made it clear he didn't want 50 anywhere near that halftime show. No talk of scheduling issues. No creative disagreements. No soft explanation to smooth things over. The way 50 tells it, this was a calculated move, someone using their corporate leverage to quietly shut another artist out of a career-defining moment. And once you really think about that, it stops feeling like simple personal tension between two rappers. It starts sounding like something much deeper.
How do you think that is?
Well, I just think,
Threatened?
possibly not even threatened. I think it's just when you take the competition from like our culture is competitive, man. It is, but I think when it goes past the music itself to blocking things in business, then I don't understand.
At that point, the situation stops being about personal dislike and turns into something much heavier: control. It becomes a case study in how unresolved tension can be amplified through corporate authority, where a single executive decision has the power to reshape an entire cultural moment. But the story doesn't end with 50 saying Jay tried to shut him out. According to 50, Eminem stepped in, and drew a hard line. In 50's telling, Eminem made it clear to the NFL, number 50 Cent, no performance. Not a request. Not a compromise. A non-negotiable stance. And members of 50's inner circle have publicly backed that version, reinforcing the idea that Eminem refused to take the stage unless 50 was included. Let that sink in. One of the most anticipated halftime shows in Super Bowl history nearly lost Eminem, one of its biggest attractions. Allegedly because someone with serious influence didn't want 50 on that stage. At that level, this isn't rap rivalry anymore. That's a behind-the-scenes power move that could have cost broadcasters millions and turned the league's biggest night into a public disaster. And 50 hasn't been vague about why he believes it unfolded that way. In a major interview in July 2024, he said it plainly. There were active efforts to keep him out, and real pushback happening behind closed doors. He even suggested the situation got so serious it could have shown up in official documents if it escalated. Eminem performs only if 50 does. Later in 2024, during another high-profile interview, 50 doubled down. He claimed the initial narrative tried to frame it as an NFL decision, shifting the blame to the league because that's the easiest cover. But 50 says he saw through it. According to him, industry insiders told him exactly where the resistance was really coming from, and he wasn't buying the league decision explanation. Which leads to the real question, why would one of hip-hop's most powerful executives allegedly push that hard to block another major artist from the Super Bowl stage? And 50's answer is where this story stops being just about music.
Pass the music itself to blocking things in business, then I don't understand that. Like right now, he's not even competing for a slot. You don't have a new song out that he want to be on the top 10 or top 5, and you still competing. It don't make sense. Like, what are we competing for?
Tell me.
The way 50 frames it, this was never about competition on wax. It wasn't about radio spins or chart positions. In his mind, the real battle was over empires, over territory, influence, and who gets to define the business side of hip-hop itself. Who gets to present themselves as the face of power in the culture, and who becomes a threat to that position. From that perspective, the Super Bowl isn't just a stage. It's a symbol, a stamp of legitimacy, a cultural seal that says, this is who matters at the highest level. So to 50, nothing about that situation felt accidental. It felt calculated, strategic. And that's the moment where this stops sounding like rap rivalry and starts feeling colder, corporate maneuvering layered over years of personal history. According to 50, this hasn't been about music for a long time. It's about lanes. He's openly said that his move into television changed the entire landscape. The Power franchise on Stars wasn't just successful, it became a cultural engine. And in 50's mind, that success turned him into direct competition with Jay-Z's entertainment ecosystem. Not rapper versus rapper, but business versus business. Two empires pushing into the same space. So when 50 talks about the Super Bowl controversy, he doesn't frame it around verses or first-week sales. He frames it around market share, influence, control. Who gets to sit at the top and shape what hip-hop business looks like going forward, and who threatens that image. One of the most revealing parts of his story is how he describes the NFL's role. Publicly, the league took the initial heat. But 50 says he never believed the decision truly came from them. In his view, the corporate shield was already in place. The deniability was built in. And when things went left, the blame was always going to land on the most convenient target. But 50 insists he wasn't fooled. He maintains that he knew exactly who was pulling the strings behind the scenes from the start. And that belief is what keeps the allegation so volatile. Because Jay-Z has never addressed it. No public response. No detailed denial. No clarification. Nothing. And in a culture fueled by speculation, silence doesn't cool things down, it accelerates them. Some people read that silence as status. Like Jay is too elevated to respond to drama. Others interpret it the opposite way, that staying quiet is damage control, because there may be more truth in 50's version than anyone wants to openly acknowledge. Either way, the lack of an official statement keeps the story circulating, growing louder in hip-hop spaces and across social media. By September 2024, the conversation expanded even further. That same idea of gatekeeping started being applied to other artists. Two prominent figures publicly speculated that Jay-Z may have blocked Lil Wayne from the 2025 Super Bowl stage due to old tensions, drawing a clear parallel. If 50 claims it happened to him, why couldn't it happen again? That's how the internet builds a pattern in real time. One allegation turns into a broader narrative about someone allegedly using corporate authority to settle past disputes and limit who gets access to the biggest platforms. Predictably, the reaction split down the middle. One side sided with 50, labeling Jay a gatekeeper abusing his position. The other defended Jay, pointing to 50's long history of provocation. After all, 50 is known for stirring chaos, trolling rivals, and turning conflict into content. To them, this is just another chapter in his ongoing strategy. And the truth, as usual, probably lives somewhere in between. What's hard to ignore is this. There has never been a clear, official statement that definitively confirms or denies 50's claims. No firm rebuttal. No outright validation. That vacuum allows 50's narrative to dominate the conversation, and for many observers, that silence speaks loudly. But to really understand why this rivalry runs so deep, why Jay-Z would allegedly go to such lengths, you have to rewind to the beginning. Every long-standing conflict starts with a spark. And this one traces back to a time before 50 Cent was a mogul. In 1999, Curtis Jackson was just another hungry rapper out of Queens. His record deal wasn't delivering. His songs weren't getting attention. He wasn't a brand yet. He wasn't insulated. He was forcing his way into rooms that weren't eager to let him in. So he did something reckless and unforgettable. He imagined a robbery, not in real life, but on record. How to Rob flipped the industry on its head, naming and sticking up some of the biggest artists in the game. It was bold. It was disrespectful. And it made sure no one could ignore him. Jay-Z wasn't spared. The line was direct and provocative, referencing Jay's massive success and painting a vivid scene aimed straight at the Bentley door, setting the tone for everything that followed.
Ain't never been no 50 Cent Jay-Z conversations, questioning whether there was a competition between the two. There's a huge difference in energy internationally in 50 Cent Jay-Z. In fact, his largest selling record sold 430-something thousand copies. My largest selling records, plural, 2 of them sold 5.
It was textbook guerrilla marketing, the kind only an unknown artist with nothing to lose could pull off. Say something outrageous, force your name into every conversation, and make the industry respond whether it wants to or not. And it worked. The record moved the old-school way. White label pressings, DJs passing it hand to hand, mixtapes spreading city to city. Stories started circulating about how heavy it was getting played, numbers like 600-plus spins a week getting tossed around as the buzz grew. Suddenly, everyone in hip-hop was talking about this fearless kid from Queens who casually name-dropped over 40 artists like he already belonged at the top. Most of the people mentioned either laughed it off or pretended it didn't exist. Jay-Z didn't. At a major New York summer concert in 1999, Jay fired back with a freestyle that instantly became legend. "I'm about $1, what's 50 cents?" The line was slick, dismissive, and perfectly framed, Jay as real money, 50 as loose change. It didn't just live in that moment either. The bar later resurfaced on an official Jay-Z release produced by Timbaland, locking it into history instead of letting it fade as a live-only jab. 50 wasn't the type to stay quiet. In 2000, he dropped Be a Gentleman, a direct response that questioned Jay's street credentials. He took shots at the "I Run New York" image and mocked the idea that commercial success automatically translated into respect in the streets. The back and forth had the potential to turn into something much bigger. Then real life intervened. On May 24, 2000, 50 was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house in Queens. He survived, but everything changed. Columbia Records dropped him and shelved his debut album, Power of the Dollar. Overnight, the rivalry was put on ice. For the next 2 years, 50 rebuilt from the ground up, recovering, grinding mixtapes, sharpening his sound, while Jay continued his dominant run through the early 2000s. The tension didn't vanish. It just went quiet as both men advanced in separate lanes. Then came 2002. 50 resurfaced, but this time he wasn't alone. He signed through Eminem and Dr. Dre under the Shady/Aftermath banner. Once that machine locked in behind him, the industry shifted almost instantly. February 2003 changed everything. Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped and detonated, nearly 900,000 first-week sales. In the Club was everywhere. 21 Questions was everywhere. 50 didn't just blow up, he became unavoidable. At that point, the conversation wasn't whether he was real. It was who, if anyone, could slow him down. Years later, even Jay acknowledged he saw the storm coming. In a 2013 radio interview, he admitted he warned his camp they had a limited window. Drop everything. Flood the market. Because once 50 arrived, the entire landscape was going to shift. And when he arrived, you could feel it. What followed in 2003 was an uneasy truce. They could exist in the same space, but they weren't exactly cool. On the surface, everything looked smooth. Sharing a Reebok commercial, co-headlining the Rock the Mic tour, moving through the same commercial ecosystem. But beneath that polished business relationship, the tension never really faded. 50 continued positioning himself as the bigger force, especially on a global scale. He talked numbers like they were the only scoreboard that mattered. At one point, he even bragged that G-Unit sneakers were outselling Jay's S. Carter line by massive margins, 6-1, according to 50. And as time went on, he became increasingly blunt about what he believed Jay's real.
Huge difference in who we are with each other internationally. Let them be fooled in America and think there's a competition there. Because America can be purchased. We can buy it with marketing dollars. You see what I'm saying? But the rest of the world, there's not enough marketing dollars to go around to change the way the rest of the world feels about it.
In 50's view, Jay never meets conflict head-on. He says Jay operates through corporate channels, positioning intermediaries out front while he stays behind the scenes, keeping his hands clean as others absorb the backlash.
He's a piece of work, man. He always put somebody in front of him. When Jada came for him, he put Beanie in front of him. And Beanie went back and forth with Jadakiss. When Cam came for him, he put True Life in front of him. And they went back and forth. And he just didn't compete.
That criticism extends to Jay's persona, which 50 dubs the coolest punk in hip-hop. He suggests the polished executive image is less about style and more a shield, keeping Jay insulated from the chaos around him. Whether you see that as clever strategy or avoiding conflict is subjective, but 50's perspective remains consistent.
Coolest punk in hip-hop. His presentation makes people decide to say,
Oh, man.
you know, because he's big, and his take on it is bigger than the actual art form. He won't actually.
Jay plays the game like a chess master, always 3 moves ahead, rarely getting his hands dirty. That approach is where their rivalry fully shifts into business. In 2004, 50 teamed up with Vitamin Water, opting for equity instead of a straight endorsement fee. When Coca-Cola bought the company in 2007 for roughly $4.1 billion, 50's stake reportedly turned into a fortune. Estimates range anywhere from $60 million to $100 million after taxes. Meanwhile, Jay had his own headline-making win. In 2007, he sold the rights to Rocawear to Iconic's brand group for about $24 million in cash. Both were landmark deals, but 50 never let an opportunity pass to frame his Vitamin Water move as the smarter, far more profitable play. 2007 added another chapter in the rivalry with a direct sales battle. Kanye's Graduation and 50's Curtis dropped the same day, sparking one of the most hyped first-week showdowns in recent memory. Kanye took it decisively, moving around 957,000 units to 50's roughly 691,000. 50 claimed Jay had a hand in tilting the scales, using his influence behind the scenes, a move that, true or not, fits perfectly into 50's broader narrative of Jay orchestrating from the shadows. And then there's the controversy that always lights up social media, the Grammy theory. In interviews throughout 2023 and 2024, 50 suggested Jay's Grammy dominance owes as much to his marriage to Beyoncé as it does to his music, again framing success as a product of strategy and influence, not just artistry.
When Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those trophies came rolling in.
Jay has 25 Grammy wins, the most of any rapper, and 50 frames that success as a mix of talent and strategic positioning. To be precise, Jay had already earned 4 Grammys before his first collaborations with Beyoncé, not just one. But 50's larger point is about acceleration. Of Jay's 25 total wins, 21 came after 2004, coinciding with his mogul rise, Family Man era, and the cultural influence of that partnership. 50 uses that timing to underscore his critique of the Grammys as an institution, arguing that relationships and image often carry as much weight as artistic impact.
He's saying the success is derived from the marriage.
Absolutely been treated differently.
The accolades. Because he's no longer viewed as like a street or gangster rapper. Now he's viewed as a businessman, entrepreneur, family man.
And the biggest ones because of the position Beyonce's.
Oh, wow.
Right? You were connected to the big.
He keeps pointing to Tupac as the example. No Grammy wins despite enormous cultural impact, proof, in 50's eyes, that the system doesn't always reward the pioneers who changed the game. And yes, 50 has Grammys too, 3 of them. Critics call him bitter, but 50 doesn't frame it as personal whining. He frames it as exposing how the industry really functions, relationships over talent, image over influence. Of course, 50 doesn't stop at the business side. He goes personal. He's joked repeatedly that Jay modeled his style and persona after Jean-Michel Basquiat, painting the mogul image as more costume than authenticity. He's taken shots at 444, labeling it golf course music, a critique that it feels elitist and distant from the streets that built Jay's reputation. And the memes, they never stop. Anytime the internet hands him an opening, 50 jumps on it, poking fun at Jay's appearance and persona with relentless energy.
Image yourself after a gay painter. The big homie want to look like a gay painter.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about Basquiat. He wants to look like a gay painter.
This rivalry never really cools off because it's not just one story, it's every story. Music, money, image, legacy, awards, business power, they all collide, and 50 keeps it moving. The audience treats it like a decades-long Cold War, where every word, every move, carries weight. The irony isn't lost on anyone watching from the outside. 2 men who started from nothing, one from the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, the other from Queens, both built billion-dollar empires. By any normal logic, they should respect each other. They are proof that relentless grind can lead to ownership. But instead of mutual admiration, they've spent roughly 25 years locked in a subtle, ongoing war. The rivalry has evolved with the times. It began as rap tension, transformed into business competition, and now thrives in the social media era, where even the smallest jab can make headlines. 50 has been consistent in how he frames it. He doesn't always act like he personally hates Jay. He's implied they can be cordial in real life when paths cross. Where 50 draws the line is in strategy. In his eyes, Jay doesn't throw punches in public. He moves through corporate power, influence, and partnerships to settle personal scores quietly. He stays insulated, avoiding consequences while controlling the narrative. Whether you call that smart strategy or cowardice depends on who you ask. But 50's brand is built on the opposite approach. He thrives on confrontation, on making the stage uncomfortable, on dealing with fallout head-on. Jay calculates, 50 confronts. Jay hides behind contracts and lawyers, 50 attacks publicly. One moves like a gladiator, the other like an emperor. Street corner versus boardroom. Comment section versus contract clause. That's why this rivalry isn't going anywhere. As long as 50 has a platform to post and Jay commands a corporate empire, the shots will keep coming, sometimes subtle, sometimes explosive. And what makes this current moment so striking is how all the storylines are colliding at once. Super Bowl claims that challenge gatekeeping at the highest level, Grammy theories that question how awards really work, and relentless jabs at identity and image keeping Jay in the crosshairs. These are 2 self-made kings, separated more by philosophy than anything else. 50 moves boldly, fearless of consequence. Jay moves quietly, letting the system do the heavy lifting. Despite diss tracks, sales battles, business flexes, trolling, and whispered behind-the-scenes maneuvering, neither has truly destroyed the other. They've both built empires their younger selves could barely imagine. Rivalries like this do something more than breed conflict. They sharpen you, make you hungrier, force strategy, and keep you obsessively focused on staying ahead. At this point, it isn't just about hate. It's about definition. Each exists partly in opposition to the other, their names forever linked in hip-hop's corporate era, an era where the real weapons aren't bars anymore. They're leverage, positioning, and influence. So the next time 50 throws a jab or a claim surfaces about someone being blocked behind the scenes, remember, this isn't just beef. It's two kings fighting over the same throne with tools that didn't even exist when they first picked up a mic. If you made it this far, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me whose side you're on, 50 or Jay, and what you think really happened behind the scenes. Stay tuned, because the story isn't over yet. I'll catch you in the next one.
That's why this rivalry never really cools off. Because it's not just one angle, it's every angle. Music, money, image, legacy, awards, business power. 50 keeps it in motion, and the audience keeps treating it like a long-running Cold War where every move means something. The funny part, or the crazy part, is the irony isn't lost on anybody watching this from the outside. You've got two men who both came from nothing. One from the Marcy projects in Brooklyn, the other from Queens. Both built billion-dollar level empires. By any normal logic, these are two dudes who should respect each other's hustle, because they're living proof the whole grind can turn into ownership. But instead of that mutual respect story, they've spent basically a quarter century locked in a Cold War. And it's evolved with the times. It started as rap tension, then turned into business rivalry, and now it lives in the social media era where every small jab can become a headline. And 50's been consistent in how he frames it. He doesn't always act like he personally hates Jay as a person. He's even implied they can be cordial in real life when they bump into each other. But where 50 draws the line is how he believes Jay moves. In 50's eyes, Jay's approach is about using corporate power to settle personal issues, not throwing punches in public, but applying pressure through partnerships, positions, and influence. That's basically 50's core critique. He claims Jay stays protected behind business structures, avoids direct confrontation, and builds a safe public image that keeps him insulated from consequences. And whether that's strategy or cowardice depends on who you ask. But 50's whole brand is built on being the opposite of that. Because 50 likes his stage uncomfortable. He likes the idea that if somebody steps to him, there's immediate consequences, not a quiet move behind closed doors. He's built his whole persona around being loud, confrontational, and unbothered by fallout. In his mind, Jay is calculating where 50 is direct, private where 50 is public, diplomatic where 50 is aggressive. So one thing feels pretty certain, this rivalry isn't going anywhere. As long as 50 has a platform to post and Jay has a corporate empire, the shots will keep coming. Sometimes it'll be subtle, sometimes it'll be explosive, but it keeps hip-hop's longest-running Cold War burning because it feeds into something bigger than beef. And what makes this specific moment in their history hit harder is that all the storylines are colliding at the same time. You've got the Super Bowl claims, which make people question how gatekeeping really works at the highest level. You've got the Grammy theory, which challenges what awards actually represent. You've got the constant identity and image jabs that keep Jay in the crosshairs. And you've got two self-made kings who started from the bottom but ended up separated by philosophy more than anything else. Because the way they operate couldn't be more different. 50 moves chest out, unafraid of consequences, posting through controversies that would make most celebrities run straight to a publicist. Jay moves quiet, letting lawyers and corporate structures do the heavy lifting, rarely giving accusations the satisfaction of a public response. It's two completely different styles of power. Gladiator versus emperor, street corner versus boardroom, comment section versus contract clause. And maybe the most telling part is that despite the diss tracks, the sales battles, the business flexing, the trolling, the rumors, and all the alleged behind-the-scenes moves, neither man has truly destroyed the other. They're both still standing on top of their own empires. Both achieved things their younger selves couldn't have imagined. And whether they'd ever admit it or not, rivalries like this can sharpen you, make you hungrier, more strategic, more obsessed with staying ahead. Because after a certain point, it stops being about hate and starts being about definition. Each man exists partly in opposition to the other. Their names stay linked in the story of hip-hop's corporate era, an era where the weapons aren't just bars anymore. It's leverage, positioning, and influence. So next time you see 50 throw another jab, or you hear another claim about someone getting blocked behind the scenes, remember, you're watching something bigger than beef. You're watching two kings fight over the same throne with weapons that didn't even exist when they first picked up a mic. If you made it this far, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me whose side you're on, 50 or Jay, and what you think really happened behind the scenes. And if you want more stories like this, stay locked in. I'll catch you in the next one.